Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is Jonas Reporters for the 7th of May. This is the PNT2A on a daily, but where we started off with the soft weakness, we were talking about our ABM yellow line, and that was the threshold to be above, and that was at that 4162 range. And sure enough, we had talked about the short-term buyers in the DOC and the steel color here, and as soon as it started pointing up, that's when we returned. And of course, like I said, it corresponded to exactly when new fund money or from institutions, all the pension monies, come in around between the 4th and the 6th range, depending on where it falls during the week. And that was enough. Every time a dip came, they started buying it up, and exactly the same thing happened yesterday. And that takes us right back up to the highs. From an NQ, performing a lot weaker. So, this is also because of the exaggerated move the NASDAQ made earlier. So it's just reaching an equivalency, which is fine. Still producing the exact same effect from a reading standpoint as it starts to improve. It's just not nearly as strong as the S&P has been. And when that evens out, it'll start to revert back to similar effect. From a gold standpoint, there it is, this talk of inflation as we, again, it's just going to be one of those that just keeps gyrating back and forth as it works up, but nowhere else for it to go but higher as this massive liquidity influx. Of course, you have payrolls and that coming out, and everyone's going to be looking to see, employment growth, as well as I think wages will probably be number one. But we just had articles about the U.S. birth rate reaching a record low, 1.6, and so you can understand from a government standpoint why you want more immigration. From a euro standpoint, turning right back around, because again, there's just no question that the U.S. is going to just keep flooding as much money as they possibly can, and that is going to make other currencies more valuable to it intraday. Well, been quite a range of activity. We were just kind of bouncing around in range. Typically, when you get these long periods of flat 100 and 0%, you just get kind of a channel effect. And literally, all we were doing was just bouncing back and forth off small buys and slow returns. And then we started to get a little bit of softness, and this was something I was talking about. When you see the yellow NBI hold above the green, that's typically, in general, bullish. When it dips below the green, you get your brief moments of weakness, but if it pops back up above, usually works out okay. But what happens is if you get a dip below blue, those tend, of the yellow below the blue, usually this first spike up tends to fail. In this case, we ended up just a green one, and that rolled over classic here, where the yellow and the magenta dip right under a green pivot right there. And that one actually led to a little bit more. Of course, we have our green dots, which represent a little bit more advanced early sell. But what I was talking about with that is when we started into this dip that was coming through, we could tell based off that this first signal was probably not going to catch as much momentum, that it was going to take a little bit of improvement for that to work through. Plus you had no steel reset early on in this one, and then we ended up with this dip, and of course the NBI came through there, came to the 50%, wasn't able to quite hold that one, but you can see here, even in the brief decline, held up pretty strong going through that. And so in the turnaround, for some reason I'm checking my code, because right after the dark green should flip back right there, particularly with the DOC orange and steel crossing at the same time. You had NBI blue, you had magenta over, so everything was going in the right direction. So I have to find out which one didn't trigger on that, because that should immediately trigger, and that led to a nice smooth move. I mean, it was clear, and then staying across with the blue above green. Something you see on the daily too, that blue stayed above the green. So until it crosses, do you start to get any kind of weakness. And where it crossed here, we ended up with the rollover. And that led to just a return back to the 50%, but from that 50% move again. And this is what you see in institutions, particularly on a daily basis, where a move will take place, and as soon as you get to 50% retracement, it starts to flutter around there, and then all of a sudden spikes up. And that's classic institutional buy setup. It's just simple, easy, because when you're buying in bulk, they can't be bothered with every little nuance. What they're really more concerned with is average weighted price, meaning getting in a specific range price that's a mean, and then continuing to buy from there. And as that happened, we had rising lows. So price was drawn to the 0%, and once it got to the 0%, had a nice turnaround setup there, MBI signal, and that was all she wrote for the rest of the day. Straight up to the moon. And that's where things finished out. So we're still pretty deep, and here's a good one right here. This one has got the yellow not even crossing below green once the blue dips below the 10 here. So it's like you're going to see in the meat, in particular with the red right down at 0.03. You're in position for a turnaround, and it's just a matter of filling in some of the code to adjust those, and then we won't even see, because this is like a default stop where it just comes back and fills in. I mean, of course, we have a whole lot of positive extremes through all of this, which is worth paying note to, because at some point when the selling begins, 41.77 range, and then this whole series from this pop, but some of that's already filled back in right now, so the lower ones would be the next in line. All good stuff. As always, though, I will keep you updated on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk throughout the market day.